jumping on here. Um, I've got a couple things that I'd like to talk about tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about some new business owner pitfalls, and then we're probably going to jump into some Q&A. So if you have questions about Marvelous Lights, about my business, about anything really, we'll get into it. First off, I got some. I got a new shirt this past week, and I think the logo is a bit too big. I think maybe like you just need to squeeze it down a little bit. So drop a comment if you think this is too big or just right size. I think it's just a little bit big. But anyways, if you don't know me, my name is Ryan Culp. I own Marvelous Lights here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I work with CLC on a lot of their training. So if you go to any of the trainings that are coming up, I'm the one who helps put some of that together, along with Tyler and Fred and Caitlin and Donovan. But anyways, you might see my face a little bit more than you're used to. So Brandon, yes, I was at the Gatlinburg training. I do wish I had more time to connect with people. Sometimes it's a little bit busy. I really should have made time to stay for that social event afterwards. But yeah, Brandon, if you guys didn't meet me, you know what I mean. Feel free to reach out anytime you have questions or need anything, and I'd be happy to help. All right, so we're going to jump right in here. I want to talk about some pitfalls for some new business owners. We'll probably do this for maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes until I get tired of hearing my own voice, and then we'll jump into some Q&A. Before we do that, I want to talk about how I got into the industry. Special shout out to Fred and Caitlin Zimmerman. Maybe like 8 years ago, I worked for them while I was in college in Indianapolis, and I was a roof guy for them. And Fred, he gave me the confidence to start my own business. And he had me help him with a lot of parts of his business. So when I graduated college, came back home, I decided that, hey, you know what, I think I can do this. No one in my family had ever owned a business, but I was determined to make it work. I just knew that normal jobs wasn't my thing. So I got started in business then. I started my original business name. It's terrible. You're going to think it's terrible. It was Leaves and Lights because I thought I was going to do gutter cleaning and Christmas lights. And that's where I started. And just a little tidbit. When I first started my business, I didn't really have the confidence entirely. I was almost just going out on a limb. But my very first quote came from a yard sign. And I put a yard sign out. It just said, Christmas lights, phone number. And he had texted me, asked for a quote. My very first quote, his name is Andy. And he approved my very first quote. I sent it out for $1,000. It was like a $10 a foot. And he approved my very first quote. And I don't know if I would have continued to have the confidence in myself if I didn't get an early win. And so that first quote I ever sent out being approved, really, it lit a fire under me that, you know what, this is possible. Anyone can do it. In the beginning, I had a lot of limiting beliefs that, you had to just work a job, a 9 to 5. That's all my parents ever did. You had to struggle. You had to never have enough money in life. You just had to live paycheck to paycheck. And I had to get rid of a lot of that to be a good business owner. And we're going to talk about a little bit of that. So, but if you're new to business, this is going to be a good live stream for you. If you've been in business a couple of years, this is going to be good. And if you've been in business like 5 to 10 years, then there's going to be some things that maybe you can relate or a couple little gems you can glean from. I just want to set a disclaimer before we jump in that the things I'm going to talk about are things that work in my market. I worked in my business in the times that I've been running my business, and the advice is from my experience. So, businesses vary. You can successfully run a business with a good branding, and you can successfully run a business without a good brand. People have done both. But I'm going to tell you what I know from the experience that I have. and kind of give you some helpful tips along the way. So, but anyways, I want to talk about. I think they put my title is the pitfalls of new business owners. I'm going to be talking about a couple pitfalls, and I want to start off with the shiny object syndrome. Has anyone heard of the shiny object syndrome? If you've got an entrepreneurship brain like myself, you're always working, you're always thinking about ideas, you're always looking for hot new ideas, fresh new ideas, and it's not even intentional. Like you just drive by a business that's not doing good and you're like, man, I could do that better. Or you have like a service that you're looking for. Like me, I've been trying to get my trash cans cleaned because they smell awful and my wife keeps bugging me about it. I called like 10 different trash can cleaning companies and none of them got back to me. Not like no answer, no email, no nothing. A bunch of them were like, you're out of my service area. Or the other ones were just nothing. And I'm like, all you got to do to win in this industry right now is pick up the phone. I could do that. I could easily just start a trash bin cleaning business. You know what I mean? And that's the danger though, is your mind's always working. Your ADHD entrepreneurship brain is always going. You have the opportunity to do anything you want. You have no limitations. And you could pursue any business, just like I just mentioned just now. But not every idea is a good idea. Not every idea is even worth your time. I've heard it said a lot of times you have to say no to good opportunities to say yes to great ones. And I think that's a big danger for me. And I think for other business owners, it is seeing opportunities and knowing that you could do good and having to say, you know what? I'm going to put that on hold, or I'm going to wait a little bit. You could definitely have 5 businesses all doing 100K, or you could focus all of your time and energy on one thing and blow it out of the park and do millions of dollars. And so that's something you got to avoid. Just don't discredit in the early days the power of like niching down and focusing on one thing. Focusing is going to always bring better results. I've had tons of ideas over the years. I've thought about doing an all electric lawn care company. Okay. I've thought about doing pressure washing. I've thought about doing interior Christmas lights because that's always a thing. Your customers ask you something and you're like, I don't offer that, but I could. And that's what's dangerous. I've thought about doing trash bin cleaning. I've thought about doing this or doing that, or customers say, hey, why don't you paint my house? Or, hey, why don't you do this while you're here? But here's the thing. None of those businesses are right for me because I'm trying to do one thing. I'm trying to build a premier exterior lighting business, and that's it. I'm not trying to do, a couple 100,000. I'm trying to do a couple 100 million. And that's why I have to focus on the good things. And you guys in your business are going to need to avoid, being pulled in 100 directions by 100 different business ideas and just focus on one really good idea. And that's probably Christmas lights if you're here. And focus on that. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to do everything in the world. If a customer asks you to do blow-ups, you don't have to do that. You can say, my niche is this. I'm really good at greenery and roof lights. I'm really good at bushes and trees. I'm really good at any of these things, but they're going to ask you, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Can you do inside stuff? And you have to figure out where you're going to draw your line and avoid getting pulled in 100 different directions. All right, let me see here. So here's my conclusion about shiny object syndrome. Not every business really is going to be a forever business. Okay, so I'm bringing context to this here. Not every business is forever. I'm sure cable TV thought it was going to be the king forever, and then streaming came along. I'm sure that Blockbuster thought they were untouchable until Netflix showed up. And here's the thing. Not every business idea is a good idea, but you do have to look at it with the context that not every business is forever. And the Christmas lights might just be a stepping stone business for you. It might not be your forever business. So there might be an opportunity that comes along that's worth your time, that has higher profitability, a bigger market, better margins, year-round opportunities. That might be the thing. I'm not saying avoid every business opportunity there is. All I'm saying is know which business opportunities are for you. If this is a stepping stone business, then that's all right. But if you're going to be in Christmas lights long term, then you need to avoid being the jack of all trades and doing anything your customers ask. You need to niche down, find what you're really good at. Like Patrick Walker, he is really good at trees. There are other guys I know that are really good at roof lines, and they'll just throw roof lines up every day. But in order to be that business that's really good, in order to be a Patrick Walker, in order to be one of those people, you have to say no to a ton of other stuff. I'm sure Patrick gets hundreds and hundreds of quotes asking to do houses and different stuff. Now, he probably turns a lot of those down. And the same with you if you have your business. I have a minimum. On my website, I won't even call you if you don't check. I understand that $1,500 is the minimum for Christmas lights. You won't even hear from me. My average ticket is way too high to be dealing with some little tiny installs. And truthfully, a lot of your problems will come from that too. Anyways, I'm getting derailed here. Shiny object syndrome. Avoid the pitfalls of early business ownership, and don't chase after 100 businesses. Don't try to be the jack of all trades. Don't be that guy. And I'm sure you guys probably have your own stories, and if you relate to that, you can throw a comment or say something, and maybe I'll bring it up here on the screen. I did realize that you can show comments on the screen like this. Boom. So if you have a good comment, I'll throw it up. But that's the shiny object syndrome. You're going to have to avoid that. If you're going to be a good business owner, you're going to have to know what your lane is, and you're going to have to stay in that lane. But that's the first thing. The second thing I want to talk about is limiting beliefs. And if I sound like a pastor to you, it's because I am a youth pastor, and most of the speaking I do is preaching or teaching at the church. So you're going to have to bear with me if that's the case. I want to talk about limiting beliefs, because when you get into business and you've been in business a few years, you don't even realize the things hindering you are often in your mind. And I had to come to those conclusions too. And there's a couple things I'm going to talk about in regards to limiting beliefs, but really your business, do I want to get into that early on? You are not your customer. That's the first thing to remember. You are not your customer. If you are thinking like your customer and you are the same person, you're going to have a tough time in business. Because when I got in business, I probably had less than $1,000 in my checking account. And I was sending out quotes for $5,000. I sent out a quote my first year, $10,000. I was scared to send that quote out because I had a limiting belief that since I can't afford it, they can't afford it too. You have to rid yourself of the belief that you and your customer are on the same level. They're not. You're playing different games. You know, you are servicing a client that a $10,000 residential Christmas light quote isn't even worth checking with their husband for, isn't even worth asking their wife for. That's like a non-negotiable. And so when you get into business, you come into it with a bunch of limiting beliefs like, people aren't going to pay that much. People wouldn't pay for this. Nobody's going to want this service. And you got to get rid of those limiting beliefs because they're going to hold you back. If I had the limiting belief that nobody would pay 10 grand for a residential Christmas light install, I may not have sent the quote, or I would have sent a quote that was much cheaper with less options. And they would have just said yes to that. And they would have said yes to $5,000. But I reminded myself, I'm not my customer. And so I'll send residential quotes, $15,000, $10,000, and I won't even feel bad about it because these people live on different levels. They're playing different games. Like, I'm playing checkers. They're playing chess, and so that's a limiting belief that you're going to have to get out of your mind. And I'm not going to say what you need to charge or, what dollar price. Every area has a different socioeconomic climate. Every area has different clients, but don't undervalue your service and don't think you and your clients are the same person. You're really not. So as far as limiting beliefs go, make sure you're not charging what you think you can afford. You need to be charging what it really costs to run that profitable business. You need to charge what the market can actually bear. That's a Paul Gardner thing, in case you have ever heard him talk about charging right. But the second thing I want to talk about in regards to limiting beliefs, and if this is boring you, just go ahead and put that in the comments, and then I'll put it up, and we can all just make fun of you publicly. But This is stuff that really changed my business. I want to share it with you. The second is a scarcity mindset. This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Um, the scarcity mindset is a limiting belief that will hinder you from growing your business. The scarcity mindset, it makes you believe that your competitors are your enemies. It makes you believe that there is a limited number of jobs in the city, and you have got to fight tooth and nail, blood, sweat, and tears to get those clients. Otherwise, you will die, be homeless, and live on the street. Now, I know that's a little bit dramatic. However, that is really how some people think. That's really how I thought at my first time in business. I didn't want to talk to competitors because I literally thought they are taking money out of my pockets. Um, that is the mindset that stops you from pre-qualifying leads because you say, I don't want to tell them my minimum $1,000. I might lose the lead. Okay, that's the scarcity mindset. It's a scarcity mindset is taking on any job, no matter how bad it is, no matter how cheap it is. They got their own lights. You want to hang them, and you just say yes because you're desperate. Okay, desperation stinks, and especially if you do in-person sales, people know when you're desperate, and you got to get rid of that scarcity mindset. You can't live a life in fear and in lack and in deficit. It's just a poor person to be. And here's a couple examples of people that live the scarcity mindset. Um, have you ever been anywhere that's given stuff away for free? It could be candies free, it could be lunches free, and they just take way more than they need. Like, let's say it's free pizza, and they got like 5, 6 slices on their plate. Or there's free candy at work, and they are literally just taking a ton of it. That person has a scarcity mindset. They believe they have to take as much as they can because there may never be another opportunity to take. That's the scarcity mindset. It's the people in Halloween time and they go trick-or-treating and they just take the whole bucket of candy. Okay? They're greedy. They have a scarcity mindset. They don't live in abundance. They're always living need to need. They're always lacking something else. That's who that is. And it's even looters. A riot breaks out and they start, stealing TVs or whatever it is. They're living that scarcity mindset where they literally have to fight for their needs. But eventually in business, you're going to have to come to the point where you're no longer living a need-based life. You've got water, you've got shelter. Your friends will take you in if they need to. The food banks will give you food. Your church will take care of you if something ever happens. And you have to move from a need-based life and a need-based way of thinking to like a want. And I know that sounds a little bit bad. Like I'm only thinking about what I want. But the reality is we have everything we need. We live in America. Our roads are going to be paved. We're going to have opportunities. And you have to think, what do I want in business? What do I want in my life? And then pursue that. Because you don't live a scarce lifestyle anymore. Your competitors aren't your enemies. As a matter of fact, the more they advertise, the more likely you are to get more leads because it increases industry awareness, which in my area is still super low. I probably have 30, 40 competitors in the city, but it doesn't even matter because the industry has still barely been tapped into. And I could look at it as every competitor as my enemy. And I could hope that their businesses crash and burn. But what is that going to do to my life and to my mindset? It's like, do you want to live a life of scarcity or do you want to live a life of abundance? A life where, you collaborate with your competitors, you pass off a job that you don't want anymore. Or do you want to be fighting tooth and nail for everything out there? I don't want to live that scarcity lifestyle. I don't want to live, having a broke mindset my entire life. I want to collaborate. I want to be happy for my competition when they win. And truth is, you may not believe this, okay, but there is more work out there than any of us can handle, than any of our businesses can handle. There is so much stinking work that there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people in my city alone that do not get Christmas lights because someone didn't follow up, because they never got a quote on time. because they waited too long and someone couldn't fulfill them, because they needed it the week of Thanksgiving and nobody could fill it on their schedule, and then nobody was advertising. There's literally so much business in this industry. We couldn't all handle it if we wanted to. So we got to throw away the scarcity mindset that is plaguing us. And we got to realize we're living a life of abundance. We are living in wants, not needs. And our industry is going to get better, even if we get a couple new competitors. Even if someone asks, you to teach them how to do your business, look at that as a good opportunity. If someone asks me, hey, can you teach me how to do Christmas lights? I'm like, how about you work for me for 2 years and then I help you launch your business on your own, show you how much it costs to do business. And then if you still want to do it, go ahead. I'll help you. And as a matter of fact, I'll have you do some of my houses in the area as a subcontractor to get you started. I would rather live in that mindset of abundance than the scarcity that says, I'm not talking to my competitors. I'm not helping you out with nothing. You need 5 bulbs because you under ordered. Well, good luck. Hope you pay $90 overnight shipping. I don't want to live that life. And I feel like as a new business owner, sometimes you come in thinking like that, like you're the underdog. You gotta fight your way through. But it doesn't have to be like that. You can live in a life of abundance. Wow, we just went through a lot of stuff in the last 20 minutes. So I'm gonna take a break. I've got some more things I want to say, but I want to take a break and see if anyone has any questions or comments or concerns or testimonies or whatever they want to say. So feel free to throw something in the comments if you want me to address it. If not, I will just talk about our next portion, which is the cost of doing business. Cost of doing business. All right, we're gonna move on. If you've been in business a couple years or you're new to business, there are some things you need to be aware of. All right, and I'm here to give you the wake up call. And this is kind of the stuff that I was hitting on. Brandon Chance, good to have you, bro. This is kind of the stuff I was trying to hit on at our advanced business training, light launch in Gatlinburg. And that's the cost of doing business. And if you're new to business, you don't realize the cost of doing business. You don't realize how much there's an aspect of pay to play. It's not unreasonable to spend 5% of your top line revenue or even 10% of your top line revenue if you're growing on marketing, on advertising. And I said this at the conference, and I'm going to keep saying it because when I got in business, I was afraid to spend $1,000 on Facebook ads or Google ads. But let me tell you, it is the cost of doing business. Now, don't just throw your money into any marketing agency or just waste it. But no, you got to spend money to make money. If you're running $100,000 business and you need to grow 100,000 more, you can expect you're probably going to spend between 5 and 10K alone on ads. That seems like a lot of money when you're a new business owner, but let me tell you, it's what you got to do. You can't be a business owner and still think like a brokey, like you're just living paycheck to paycheck. And that's where the limiting beliefs come in running your business, is you got to elevate your mindset. You can't see yourself as a small-minded, small business person who has $500 in their checking account and might overdraft. You're going to have to overcome that. And you're going to have to build a little bit of wealth and give yourself that confidence that you can do it. Let me make sure you can't spare the expenses. Okay. A goat hook. Everyone needs a goat hook if their employees are going to be on the ladders. But let me tell you, your employees need that safety equipment. And if you're cheap and if you think, I don't want to spend what it costs to spend, what is a goat hook now? $500, maybe $700. You might think, oh, that's a waste of money. But safety is not a waste of your money. Keeping your employees safe on the roof is a top priority. And you got to pay for that equipment. You got to pay for that safety equipment. There are a lot of expenses you don't think come into running a business. And some of you already know. Some of you probably could put some numbers of how much payroll tax you put in the comments, and we'd all be blown away. But there is payroll, and then there's payroll tax. And there's insurance. You got general liability. You're going to have that. Then you've got auto insurance. Then you've got workers' comp. Then you've got equipment insurance. And then you've got an umbrella policy. And that's just the insurance. And then you've got you've got vehicles, and you got maintenance, and you got fuel, and then it could stack up. You know, our ladders that we use, we've got bull horns on the top, they've got standoffs, they've got levelers on the bottom. I mean, some of our ladder setups are just $1,000 in all the equipment. And you've got to be okay with knowing you're gonna have to spend money to make money. Now you're not gonna spend that all up front, but at the end of the season, you got some money in the bank. You need to be reinvesting that in your growth, and you can't be afraid to do that. Um, I remember I was afraid to buy a trailer my first year. And I remember calling up my business partner and saying, "Hey, it was $6,000 trailer." I was like, "Hey, you think we should do this?" I had already made up my mind. This was the next move. I got a trailer, do this, yada yada. And that's a debate for another time. Trailers or vans, I've done both. And I was so scared to spend $6,000 and just buy a trailer because I did not realize that was the cost of doing business. I had never just written checks like that before. I was in my early 20s, but now it's different. Now I know that's the cost of doing business. You don't even have to worry about that. If you've already decided this is the next step in your business, just do it. So there's going to be a lot of cost of doing business. And if you're not ready for it, it's going to scare you. And it's going to stop you from growing because you're afraid, because you have that scarcity mindset. You're afraid to spend money to make money because you never had money. And I hope that's not you. I don't want you to have your growth stunted in your early days in business. Okay. Let me see. Anybody have any questions before we get going? Let me read through some of these comments. Preach. Facebook user says, preach. I am preaching. I'm just kidding. Facebook user, you need to sign in so I know who you are. If you want a job, DM me. I'll give you a job. Bullhorns and ladder levelers will change your life. Seriously. If you don't feel safe on a ladder, put some standoffs on there and you'll feel a lot safer. It doesn't twist to the left or to the right. You can change the level of the legs based on the ground you're on. It is awesome. How much do you pay installers? I have played around and I'm not sure if I have the best answer yet. I started off paying installers hourly and that did okay. And then I wanted better quality candidates. So I upped my hourly pay to $25 an hour. And surprisingly, I didn't get any better candidates. I just got people who thought they were worth more, which props to them for having a good mindset. But this past year, we dabbled with some performance pay where we paid a percentage of the job. And I'm trying to remember what the exact numbers were for Christmas light season. I think the lead installer I think if it was two people that had the same amount of experience, it was 5% and 5%. Whoa, did you see those balloons? I think that's what happens when you do the peace sign. No? Okay, if you have two installers, it was 50-50. So whatever the labor revenue was, which for some of these Christmas light jobs, it was 10%. They each got 5% of the revenue. If it was a experienced person and a new person, it was split differently. It was like 7 and 3% of labor revenue. And when it depends on your industry also, if you have other businesses, on how much labor revenue is. But we played around with that, and that was that did okay, especially when people ask for raises. Because I would say, you want a raise? Like, why don't you just show up to work earlier? Or why don't you just add another job on? And then we did the math. It's like you could make $300 more a day if you got here earlier and then you just finish the job instead of going back tomorrow. Like, you don't need a raise. You just need better time management. So that kind of eliminated some problems. But then there's some complexities to it, because if you do performance pay, then who does repairs? And if someone from one crew does a job and gets paid, and someone else has to do the repair, it's kind of a tricky situation. I would recommend looking up Mike Andes. He has a pay for performance book and a software that's pretty good. I've used it for a little bit, but obviously we're in the off season, so we're not using it right now. But he's got a lot of details, and he's gone into like the really nitty gritty nuances of pay for performance. So I think that's the way to go, though. I don't want people on my team ever to say I'm on the clock. I don't want people on my team ever to say it's not my time. That just like that boils my blood. I'm like, you're on the clock. Like, yeah, okay, I want them to have some skin in the game. So that's where I like performance. So it'll usually be, a base pay of a low hourly, and then their performance bonuses based on percentage. Awesome. Any other questions I'll go into before I move on? And when it comes to hiring and stuff and paying people, I'm of the mindset that I pay people more than probably the job's worth, because I want my employees, I want everyone that comes in contact with my business to be blessed. I want my business to be blessed, to bless other people. I want my employees that work for me to live the best life they've ever lived. And I want the clients that we work with to have the best experience they've ever had. So I'm okay with paying people a little more than they're worth, maybe, because I want that buy-in. I want that loyalty that comes from, maybe getting paid more than you're worth and getting treated better than maybe you deserve to be treated. But that's the kind of business I'm trying to run. So even if I pay them a little bit more than I should, I'm okay with that. Some people, they're not okay with that. So you got to decide what's best for you. All right. Any other questions? Just throw them in the chat, and I will read them in a bit. The last thing I wanted to talk about is trying to do everything yourself. That's probably one of the biggest pitfalls that I had in business, and it kind of goes hand in hand with having different limiting beliefs in business. But when you first start your business, you're grinding. You are the hustler. When you've got $0 in revenue and you're starting a business and it's just an idea and it's you and yourself and that's it, you're working on the weekends, you're working on the nights, you're hustling, you're working hard. And that's who you got to be. You got to do everything. You got to answer the phone. You've got to send out the quotes. You got to install. You got to order material. That's just how it is. But as your business grows, you can't be that hustler anymore. And some people think that you just have to live the hustle life forever. Like you're an eternal hustler. Okay. And those are the people that are stopping their business from growing. Like they are the ceiling to their business. And as your business grows and you go over 100K, over 200K, over 300K, you have to learn to delegate tasks. Okay. That sounds like a really simple thing to say. You got to learn to delegate. Okay. But it's harder than you think. And you have to decide, okay, what tasks are worth $10 an hour? Okay. Screwing a bulb into the line, that is maybe less than a $10 an hour task. An owner should never be prepping his lights if he's doing over 50K in revenue. Or I would even say in the beginning, I didn't prep lights. I would have guys from my church that were of legal age to work, maybe 16. I would just have them screwing bulbs in, putting clips on, and doing that. And I would pay them, every couple hundred feet, I'd give them $5 because I didn't have the time to do that. I needed to focus on sending out quotes and doing these other things. And so you have to just separate. Okay, what's a $15 an hour task? What's a $100 an hour task? What's a $1,000 an hour task? And then what's your time worth? In the beginning, your time isn't worth that much because you don't have a lot to do. It's a new business. So you got to answer the phones. So you got to send out the quotes. But as time progresses, you have to decide, what do I tell my employees to do and what do I focus on? And you're not telling them what to do because you're a pretentious jerk, okay? Because you're better than them. And when you drink your drink, you have your pinky in the air. Like that's not how it is. You're delegating tasks so that you can serve the business better because your time is wasted doing light prep. That is a waste of a business owner's time, okay? You might think, hey, Ryan, who do you think you are? That's a waste of my time because I could hire someone to do that for less than $10 an hour. I need to be focused on closing jobs that are big, on building partnerships with other companies that are going to send me leads. I need to be focusing on the things that move the needle in the business, on driving revenue, on building the brand, on the marketing. I need to be focusing only on the things that I can only do. And I need to let someone else focus on little things. And that's something hard as you grow your business to let go because you're used to being the hustler. You're used to answering the phones. You're used to being, okay, if you're in the Christmas light industry, you'll know this. You're used to being in the middle of an install. You get a phone call. You see it's from your Christmas light website or something. So you climb up to the top of the roof, you sit on the ridge cap, and then you take the call and the install stops and your helper's sitting there looking at you what to do. And you're just doing the quote. That used to be me. I was doing the quote while I was on the job. I would stop the job I'm on to pick up the phone. Okay. But if my business was going to grow, I knew I had to hire a receptionist. I had to have someone else start building and sending out quotes. I had to start having other people install so that I could focus on managing. And that's something that if you're not um, aware of, you might not implement those things. And you might say, I need to be the one to answer every phone call because I know what to say. Well, truth is, if you focus on what you're good at, and then you hire someone to focus on answering the phones, they're going to answer the phones better than you. They're going to talk sweeter than you. They're going to be more attentive than you. They're going to be more available than you. They're going to do a better job than you would if you held on to it with a death grip. So you're going to have to delegate. And that's kind of where business takes you. Every new level in business requires something new of the owner. And that's why business just isn't for everybody, because being an owner, it's going to require an exponential amount of personal growth in the first few years. And so in the beginning, you're going to be a hustler. Then you're going to be a delegator. Then you're going to be a manager. Then you're going to be like an operator, and then you might even put a GM in and step back and be a silent owner, And some people can't handle that much growth. They can only take so much at a time. And some people can't handle any of the risk or pressure at all. And then that's fine. Just be an employee and have a job. But if you're on this live stream, I know that it's because you don't want to be an employee. You don't want to have a job, or you don't want to just have a boring desk job or a normal job. You want to take control of your life. You want to, try to live out your dreams, and you want to make something of your business. So in conclusion, don't try to do everything yourself. Hire people that are good at what they're good at, and you focus on what you're at. In the beginning, you might do it all. You might answer the phones, do the quotes, do the installs, but as soon as you can, put someone else in place to help you out so that you can focus on what you're good at, so your business can continue to grow, and so your time and your mind isn't pulled in 100 different directions. So, all right, if you've got any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I am going to plug. We've got some, let me pull it up here. We've got some training dates coming up that I want you to be aware of. And we've got some other ones in the works. So coming up, actually, this weekend, the registration is already closed for this, but we got the permanent light training in Denver, Colorado with Tyler Zimmerman. That's going to be an awesome one if you're looking to get into RGB lighting. And then in Kentucky, in May 9 and 10, we've got power washing and Christmas light training. So that's good for anyone that's getting into either industry or that wants to dip their toe into starting a business. You're going to get the hands-on training you need. We got more in July. We're also even working on one in June that is landscape lighting focused. I don't want to say who all is going to be involved, but let me tell you, if the things we've got in the works go through, it's going to be an awesome life-changing landscape lighting training. And ultimately, my goal here at CLC is I'm trying to build the training that I wish I had when I got in the business, because I've spent, tens of thousands of dollars on different trainings and such, and some of it was worth it, some of it wasn't. And I spent money on coaching programs. Some of it was worth it. Some of it was a total waste. And our goal here is to build the best training, the best opportunities for new installers to build a strong business and to build a strong brand. And if you're interested in working with other brands, like maybe even Marvelous Lights, we might have some opportunities down the road for possible partnerships or licensees. That kind of stuff's still in the work. But we are trying to roll something like that out so that if you don't want to have to start from square one, if you kind of want the business in a box, we can offer that for you too. But anyways, got a lot of awesome trainings coming up. So you're going to want to make sure you're a part of that. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself and invest in your business. That's something that luckily I don't know how I learned that early on, but I did. And I've spent money on training, and some of it has really pushed me further ahead than I could have on my own. Because someone that's further ahead of you has a higher mindset than you, doesn't have limiting beliefs. You start to talk to them one-on-one, and then they say, "Wait, what do you mean you can't do this?" And then they kind of reveal to you the flaws in your thinking and in your ways of doing business, and they can really elevate you. So bonus material for the day. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself, invest in coaching, invest in training. It is, even if the training's bad, even if the coaching's bad, you gain the new mindset, the new thought process that I'm a person who invests in myself. I am a person of higher worth. And that alone is going to elevate your thinking. Even if you hire a coach and he does a bad job, um, it's still going to elevate your mindset because you are now a person of higher value. You're the kind of person that invests in yourself. You're the kind of person that charges a lot. You're the kind of person that has a profitable business. And just thinking that way can change the outcome of your life. So, Facebook user says, I missed a few notes. Will you be saving this live? Yes. The goal is to save these lives and possibly cut the audio, turn into a podcast for you to listen while you're driving down the road. Brian, yeah, landscape lighting training, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be lit, as the kids say. So yeah. Well, does anyone have any questions? It could be about branding. It could be about business. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you, because I just know the fact that I don't know everything. But Elliot Vickers says, you learn more from bad leaders than good leaders. That's true. Hopefully you don't have to, though. Yeah, they say you learn more when you lose than when you win. So I like it. When did you feel like you graduated from barely making it to actually being successful? That's a really good question. Let me ponder that for a second. When did I feel like I graduated from barely making it to actually being successful? I think it probably wasn't until my second season in business. I sent out all of my renewals in July, and I had, maybe 30, 40 grand in the bank. And I thought, this business thing might really work out. And, I started to have a little bit more money in my bank account than I used to. And I realized, you know what? I don't have to keep spending all my money and living paycheck to paycheck. I can set some in the savings account. And so I don't know, maybe I think just incrementally, as I had more wins, I gained more confidence in business and personally. And from all the coaching calls I've been on, there's a lot of group coaching calls out there, and a lot of them are great. But you learn a lot from hearing other people's problems, from hearing other people's limiting beliefs, and that scarcity mindset. I mean, it's almost in everyone that you talk to in the beginning, because they're afraid, they're scared, they don't know if their business is going to last, they don't know if the economy is going to tank. They're like, it's an election year, who knows what might happen, World War III, Armageddon, solar flare, and all that stuff. It's just not helpful. You don't think clearly in business when you're clouded your mind with all this negative news junk. So that was a rabbit trail. But anyways, any other questions about marketing, maybe even about my rebrand? I don't even know if I want to admit how much I spent on this Marvelous Lights brand. But Leaves and Lights was not going to cut it, so we had to do something else. Branding, it's definitely worth your money. The first year will be a little bit tough because no one knows your brand, but it's definitely worth it. All right, I'm going to put this on the board. Brandon says, if you were to start over today in a new city with decent pockets of money, how would you go about marketing over a 3-year span? Brandon, a 3-year marketing span. Depends on how much money I'm starting with. Okay. Do I get to bring some of my current money, or do I start from zero? Let's say you're starting from zero, because that's harder. I would start with the cheapest forms of marketing, obviously. The cheapest forms of marketing are going to be your yard signs, are going to be your Facebook groups, are going to be Facebook posts. It's going to be your friends and family. Your friends and family probably aren't going to be your clients. All right, let's just be honest. A client becomes a friend quicker than a friend becomes a client. Just know that. That's just how it is. However, they might know someone. And I would call every business that's in a related service area. So Christmas lights, you're dealing with high dollar clients. That means the guy who's working on their security gate in the front, okay, he's going to be in tune with high dollar clients. The guys that are doing garage floor coatings and organization, he's dealing with high dollar clients. I want to be connected with him. Anyone that's doing high dollar services, I would try and network with. But the yard signs and the organic internet advertising is going to be the first things I'd implement. As soon as I get some cash, as soon as I get some 50% deposits, I would start running Google ads immediately because um, everyone on Google is already looking for the service. They're just looking for somebody to call. I would start running it that way. As I get into year 2 and 3, I would move into more of a strategic kind of automation where every job I do, we put door hangers on the 5 surrounding. And then the next week they get a postcard. And then 2 weeks after that, they get another postcard to where you're kind of hitting them with multiple um, impressions in your brand. I would wrap my vehicles as soon as I could because I've literally had someone say, I saw your van pull out and I knew I had to go with you. And this person already did Christmas lights with another company. And guess what? They were a $10,000 client. And they come from just seeing my wrap and saying, we need to work with that company. So it would be a strategic pattern. Brandon, if you want to go over that or if you have a plan for the next 3 years, I'd love to collaborate with you and give you my take. But those are just a couple of things I would hit. Ian, what percentage of revenue is material? Ian, so it depends on if you're talking about year 1 or every year after that. Year 1, it can be like between 30 and 40, maybe even 50% on a really big job with like garland and crazy stuff. I would say 33% is pretty typical, maybe 40. It depends on what your numbers are. Obviously, it depends on what you're charging. You can expect every linear foot of roof lights to be somewhere between $2 and $3, maybe, depending on your pricing. I mean, bulbs, 85 cents a bulb. Socket wire, clips, you know what I mean? Plugs. Next thing you know, you're spending like $3 a foot. So I would say percentage of revenue is going to fluctuate based on new clients or old clients. If you can keep those repeat clients, you're going to keep your numbers up. But on a new job, Ian, you're going to look at spending somewhere between 30 and 50%. It could be even more if you're selling the lights or doing something like that. You rebranded year 2 or year 3? Brian. I rebranded between year 2 and 3. Let me think. Yep. Maybe year 3. I'd have to go back and look at a calendar. But I rebranded from Leaves and Lights, and it costs a lot of money. I mean, rebrand packages can be between $10,000 and $20,000. I mean, if you go with someone like big time, like who's that guy? I think his name is Dan. Kick Charge Creative, I think. I mean, he could charge, I mean, who knows, like 30, 40 grand. And for big businesses, it's worth it for sure. Small businesses, it's a little tough to swallow. But you know what they say, you buy once, cry once. If you hire someone on Upwork to do your logo and branding package, it's probably not going to be that good. And you're probably going to want to change it. And the more time you're spent preoccupied with thinking about how your brand could be better is time wasted that could be thought about how can I get more sales? And really a business is nothing without sales. So if you don't like your brand, get it fixed as fast as you can. Make it something that you love. Literally. I love Marvelous Lights. I put this logo on everything. It's on the back of this laptop. It's on all of my water bottles. It's on my shirts. It's on my hats. It's on my truck. I mean, I love it. And guess what? I don't think at all about thinking, should I rebrand? But I was consumed mentally for the last few years. Should I rebrand? Should I rebrand? I wish it was better. I wish it looked cooler. Yada, yada, yada. So, yeah, probably in between year 2 and 3. And it costs some money. And maybe I can put up sometime the rebranding package that I initially got from Prolific, and they gave me 3 options. One was the current one that you see now. One, actually, the primary colors were red and blue, and then the last option they showed me was white and blue. And they're pretty cool to look at to see these branding packages. So maybe we can do that in the future. If someone's interested, just go ahead and comment below that you're interested. Oh, question for the audience. We're potentially looking at doing a aerial boom lift certification class that gets you an OSHA certified card. So if you're interested in something like that, let me know in the comments or DM me if you'd be interested. We're trying to gauge how many people would benefit from that before we really put on a training of that caliber. So if you'd be interested in that, let me know anytime. Thank you. Do you have recommendations for marketing agencies? Facebook user. I don't, because there's a lot of them out there, and results may vary based on your budget and on your pictures and on your stuff. I would say Actually, here's my recommendation on marketing agencies. Don't take anyone's word for it. Don't take anyone's recommendation. Google whatever you want, like pay-per-click ad agency or SEO optimized agency, and go with the very first person. Okay. Why? Because clearly they know what they're doing if they're at the top. Okay. If you want someone that's good at pay-per-click marketing, click the first one that says sponsored on Google. If you want someone that's good at SEO, click the first one that's not sponsored, that's organic on SEO. And then that's the company you should go with. Okay. So that's my recommendation. There's a lot of companies out there that do marketing, and I'm sure they do great. But I would say go with someone who's making it happen right now and that has a track record. Sometimes marketing spend, you almost feel like you're throwing money in the fire because, like, how do we know I got really good leads out of this? Or how do we know you're, especially with SEO, like you're optimizing my backlinks and building my hypertext. Like, are you really? Or am I just paying you monthly? So go with someone who knows what they're doing, has a track record. That'd be my recommendation. What is the lifetime value of a temporary lighting customer, Brian? I think before we can talk about their lifetime value, we have to determine what their lifetime is. For me, sadly, I have a high churn because I have a high ticket price. So my lifetime of a customer is like 4 years. I wish it was 10 years. And I'm working on ways to make it 10 years by giving people opportunities to stick around with my business. So the lifetime value of the customer is essentially going to be the number of years they stick around and the price they pay. So I can tell you on average what mine would be. They stick around on average for me 3 to 4 years. So let's go conservative. Let's say 3 years times $3,500, which is my average ticket, which is a little bit high. So don't expect to get that year one. So my lifetime value of any client is $10,000, $10,500 to be exact. Could be more, could be less. That's on average. So with that in mind, it pays to spend on marketing because, if I spend $200 to acquire that client, what's $200 to 10 grand over the next 3 years? So that's a good question. It's going to depend on every business though, and how they run their business, how long their clients stick around, what their churn is, and what their average ticket is. Brian, I'd love a different Brian, not Brian Young, Brian Jensen. I'd love to see the rebranding package. I'll have to see if I can bring that up in my next live stream. I'll have that pulled up for you. I probably will do another live in maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And we can totally go over that. That'd be awesome. A marketing push. What's your typical customer acquisition cost? Chase, great question. Glad you asked. David, what is up, my guy, the marketing king, David Tice. But back to Chase's question. Typical customer acquisition cost for me is around $250 a client, just based on all of the marketing spend I've done and client acquisition in the past. That might be high to you, that might be low to you. I mean, if you do jobs really cheap and that's your way of building your other services in the off season, like maybe you have a landscape business and Christmas lights gets their foot in the door, that's high. But for me, $250 acquisition costs compared to a $10,500 lifetime value, that's nothing. As a matter of fact, I could probably spend more on marketing and be okay. And I plan to. So it's a good question. So for me, it's between $200, $300. Some people might be more, some people might be less. Depends on the area, depends on how many people are in the area, depends on your business. Definitely interested in the aerial certification. Yeah, I think that's something that we all probably need to get more into. We want our employees to be safe. We want them to be well trained. We also want our workers' comp to be lower. We want our bills to be cheaper. And we want to make sure our guys are working safely. They're doing the right things. Because everyone knows employees, they're going to do, they're going to do a little bit less than your standards. And that's just how it is. Whatever you do, they're going to take a few steps and go less. So I think the certification's probably the direction we need to go first to helping some of these installers with their install businesses. Also, hiring boom lifts, is a way to take an edge over your clients. There are some houses out there that are big and steep. I got some 4-story houses. No one else will even quote them. But I'm not afraid of it. We can just rent a lift. We can build that into a quote. We can do it. I mean, I don't mind being 70 feet up in the air. Now, Elliot, on the other hand, one of our lead installers, he does not like being at the very top of the lift when the wind blows and you rotate a little bit and it goes like that. He doesn't like that. Now he's gotten over it, but some people don't like lifts. Some people don't like heights. If that's your case, I'd say you get into a different business. Anyways, Brian Young, favorite marketing channel. I'm just a pay-per-click guy. PPC. I like being able to see how many clicks I'm getting, how many are converting, where they're going, who they are. I also like just being able to pour money into it and it pours money back out. I've been tracking my marketing channels, and that gives me the highest ROI of anything. I've found that there's two differences in Facebook and Google. Google, people are going to Google to look for your service on the web, okay? And then they find you and they call you. Facebook, you're going to them with your pictures. And you're saying, hey, look how good this house looks. You want this. And they're like, I do want that. Then they call you and they realize they can't afford it. So I've found that pay-per-click gives me better ROI. Facebook gives me better brand recognition with the public. And so it depends on what you want. Depends on what part of the season you're in. So that's a good question though, Mr. Brian Young. Elliot Vickers, I'll take a lift over pitch hoppers any day. I actually love pitch hoppers. I love them to death. I mean, I trust them with my life. Let's just say that. I'll get on the top of a 14, not a 14, it's not rated for that, of a 12-12, and I will stand on the pitch hopper all day long. As long as it's new, as long as it hasn't been roughed up, and as long as the shingles don't fall away out from under you, like have a lot of grit, I'll do it all day long. So, but lifts are a lot more fun. It's fun to stand on flat ground while hanging lights. Let me tell you, if you're used to using your cougar paws and having your calves scream while you're hanging them, you would love driving a lift. So, any other questions? We've got a couple minutes. I am here at your disposal, and I'm an open book. I'm as transparent as I can get. I mean, there are some limitations, but I'll do my best to answer any questions you have. Our only workman's comp claim was your friend who put a plug on with a knife. Oh, I know who this is. This is Fred and Caitlin Zimmerman. Yes, I would recruit new employees for them. A little water break there, little shameless plug. I would recruit new employees for them and help train them. And I was one of them was trying to take off a plug. And instead of using pliers, which they should have been using, he's using a knife. And he cut the tip of his thumb off. I think it was his thumb. Let me know in the chat if it wasn't his thumb. And blood started going everywhere. I was like, oh no, this install is ruined. We had to go to the hospital, and the girl in triage wrapped him up. He like had his little piece of his finger with him. It didn't make it. So it was cut off. That thing was dead. So, but yeah, workman's comp's not fun. But you know what is even worse than workman's comp claims is not having workman's comp and getting sued. That's worse, or going out of business because of something like that. So yeah, it was a bad situation, and we all learned from it. So yeah, that was when they were in the Dominican Republic. That actually was that was a interesting time. We'll just leave it there. All right, last thing, Brian Young, before we close, do you believe in the old saying that your marketing should 10x? I don't know if that's an old saying or a new saying, and I don't know who says it, so I couldn't tell you. But I do think that if you exponentially market in the right channels, your business will grow exponentially. And I think when times are tough, you shouldn't cut marketing. Now you should be smart about it. Don't advertise Christmas lights in April. But you're going to get a much lower ROI than you would in season. So be smart about it. But definitely market for the business you want, not for the business you have. That would be my advice. So work backwards with the goal you have in mind. So, all right, y'all, I think that's it. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you want to go over numbers, or if you want to talk more about something that we talked about in this live stream, I would love to go over it with you. Don't forget the trainings coming up. They're posted on our CLC page. And we're trying not to spam the group with that kind of stuff, but every once in a while you might see it just so everyone's in the loop. Training, it's going to be your best friend. It'll help you out in the long run. So be there or be square, as the kids say. You want to be around. And if you have ideas for trainings we could do in the future, feel free, reach out. We are all about growing people's businesses here at CLC, and I feel the same way. I'm here to collaborate. Competitors aren't my enemies, so feel free to reach out. And if you need any special advice, I'm always available. Thanks, y'all, for jumping on. For the 13 people that made it to the end, you're awesome. Look at that thumbs up. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you.